Hi, and welcome to Prepping Essentials. Good morning, it's 7 o'clock on Saturday the 12th of February. Just making my way down to the land, and as always, not quite sure what we're going to get done today, but let's find out. Well, here we are down on the land. It's a cold morning, and look at that sky. Given the thumbnail on the video today, it's quite an apt sky. It's been really cold during the week, bitterly cold yesterday in particular. Thankfully though, it's not raining, so hopefully we'll be able to get something done outside today, though I suspect I will need some heat in the cabin this morning. I've got a few bits to bring from the car. I'll get those brought in. We'll sort the chickens out, and then once I'm settled down with a coffee, we'll have a chat. Alright, let's get this fire on the go. I've got the diesel heater on in the background just to take the chill off while this fire gets going. But hopefully this won't take too long. Well, first things first, as usual, sort the chickens out, and as usual, the little red ones here pestering me, demanding that special treatment. They are funny. Right, well, the other one's coming as well. It's picking up the scraps. Is that good? Right, I'll let them peck away as usual. There's plenty of greenery for them later. Let's go and see what's in the coop. Alright, let's take a little peek inside here, see what we've got going on. It's a bit dark, let me get some light on. As usual, lots of mess everywhere. They've took the top off this container again. They keep doing this and burying it. That needs topping up. Oh, and the water needs topping up. I'll do that shortly. What we got in here? Nothing. Oh, there's a whole selection in there. Nothing. Mess. Let's have a little look. Yeah, they look a bit wet, these. I don't quite know why that is. Well, there must be a broken one somewhere. Yeah, there is at the back, look. There's one broken. Right at the back. Yeah, this one, look. I'm going to have to sort that out. Right, let me get that mess sorted out, the food topped up, and get back in the cabin. Right, they're content pecking around. Fire seems to be drawing okay. Look at those dark clouds on the horizon. There's a storm a-coming. Coffee time. Nice when you can do it on the wood burner rather than the gas. Well, it's the weekend again. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope you're all staying safe and well and enjoying your weekend. Cold week this week, and if you saw earlier when I was showing the dark skies, the storm on the horizon, it's getting darker and darker. It should be getting lighter and lighter, and it's not. So I suspect we're going to get either rain or snow, and I don't know which it is. I know which one I don't want. Well, actually, I don't want either. But I don't want snow. For sure I don't want snow. But can't control it, so just going to have to wait and see. and find out what happens. Nice to have the fire on. Boiled the kettle on there this morning for a change. Normally I use the gas, but you know, the heat's there, why not use it? Brought a few things down again this morning. The decision about the polytunnel was made. I've got another one. I've also started stocking up on fresh drinking water here. I brought some containers in from home. I always keep containers of fresh water in the shed at home, just in case, you never know. It would be unusual for the water to go off, but it's not unheard of, so I always keep a reserve. And I thought, you know what, while I've got the facility here, I've got thousands of litres of rainwater that's been collected off the roof. You still can't trust that because you don't know what's been on the roof. And here in the middle of the field, you've got all of the different pigeons, crows, and I suspect other animals, because I have had instances on the roof before where something large has been on there. I suspect it was a fox. It's not doing it now. This is going back a couple of years. But when I first put this structure up, absolutely there was something large on the roof, because it actually cracked one of the panels. And you could see the bow where it had been sitting, and you could see marks on the water storage cabinet where it had been scrambling up onto the roof. And I think a fox was using that as a vantage point for rabbit hunting. But I digress. So I brought some containers down. I've been putting water through the Berkey water filter and just storing it up just in case. Because for sure there are storm clouds gathering on the horizon, and we are going to get one or more big events coming our way very, very shortly, to add to the woes that we've been experiencing over the last couple of years. And I want to say from the start, this is not a doom and gloom or fearmonger prediction type video. If you want those, there are millions of them. Especially this last month or so, YouTube is littered with predictions of the end of the world as we know it and shit hit in the fan. I'm quite surprised, because even some of the more, let's say, I don't want to use the word conservative because that's got political connotations, but you know what I mean, the more reserved and studious YouTubers out there, even they are going into major overdrive right now, whether it's the trucker situation and potential for civil war in America, or whether it's the big elephant in the room, the Russians are coming, they're going to invade Ukraine. Yeah, it's getting a bit crazy out there in YouTube land lately. But it's, to a degree, it is true. And that's kind of the theme of today's cabin chat, the storm on the horizon, and are you ready? Because there's a variety of things that are building, and for sure at least one of them is going to tip over into a full-blown crisis. Now, we're not talking about COVID, Omicron, BA2 and all these other names that have appeared over the last couple of years. As one has been proven to be a nothing burger, there's been another name rolled out, and oh, this is worse. That's done, and governments around the world have realised the folly of their lockdowns and destruction of their economies and supply chains, and that is one of the things that is potentially looming on the horizon, a complete meltdown of the supply chain. And over the last couple of weeks, we've had central banks around the world who have gone into overdrive with their predictions about how much interest rates are going to go up to tackle the inflation that they actually created themselves. This inflation didn't come out of nowhere, nor did the supply chain issue come out of nowhere. These things have been created by governments. Make no mistake about that. This wasn't an accidental thing that happened because of COVID. It didn't. Inflation and supply chain breakdown have been a direct result of policies that have been taken by governments around the world. And we as preppers, we can't control any of that. It's beyond our remit. We don't manipulate the financial markets. We don't block off ports or other parts of the supply chain. We don't create natural environmental events that have affected the crop harvests and crop yields over the last couple of years. They're completely beyond our control, and I would urge you not to get all anxious and panic-stricken about things that you physically cannot control. Now, yes, it's true, we can do lots of things, and we should be doing lots of things, whether that's stocking up on food and essentials because we know a breakdown of the supply chain's coming, whether that's stocking up on food and essentials because we know that inflation is making those things more and more and more expensive. We're hitting all-time records. Well, that's not strictly true. We're hitting 30 and 40-year highs of inflation, taking us back to the last major recession that we had 30, 40 years ago, back in the 70s and 80s. It's also adding strain to the financial markets, which are already jittery. And you'll have seen wild moves in the various financial markets, whether that's the stock market, the bond market, the cryptocurrency market. All of these financial markets, they're like yo-yos over the last month or so. December, we saw a massive crash. January, you saw another massive crash, where 10-15% was wiped off financial markets on the stock exchange, where we had 50 and 60% crashes in cryptocurrency prices. Again, we cannot physically, individually, control any of that. All we can do is try and prepare for the repercussions, inevitable price rises for goods and services that we need in our daily lives. And in the case of inflation, the tool currently being rolled out of the arsenal of the central banks is the dreaded interest rate rises. So we can't control how much they put up interest by, but we can do something to try and mitigate it by reducing the amount of debt we have, getting rid of those higher interest rate items. So things like credit cards, which are massive rates of interest versus the smaller rates on things like mortgages. So drawing down on debt, perhaps a bit late now, maybe. Things that I've been looking at, selling my house. I know that the market now is massively pumped. It's ready for a big dump. So sell now while the prices are ridiculously high. Take advantage of that when the inevitable crash comes and buy in cheap again. So lots of things. The big elephant in the room, which is coming to a massive head this weekend, is the Russia, Ukraine and Russia-China story that's all over the news media, and which has got lots and lots of YouTube channels really, really exercised. Again, as individuals, we cannot physically do anything about that. If the Western governments want to pick a fight with Russia, and that turns into a full-blown war, God help us, we can't physically do anything to stop that. We can have a protest in the street and we make a voices heard, as we did with Libya and Syria, and to a degree Iraq. But we all know what happened. They just went ahead anyway. So again, it's getting ready for the repercussions, and I'll touch on that again shortly. But I wanted to address the elephant in the room, and I've done this in a few videos over recent months. Indeed, I was talking about some of this last year. If you remember, a couple of years ago, it was all about Iran, and there was going to be a World War III over Iran, and America's going to invade Iran, and it got really out of control, drove the price of oil through the roof, and we all felt the repercussions of that. Similar kind of thing is happening now. There are huge problems around the world which Western governments, to a degree, well, to a large degree, have created themselves through their own actions, and which are going to cause major pain on you and me, the general public. And they really desperately are looking for a distraction. COVID was an ideal distraction. They could do whatever they wanted under the guise of COVID and saving you from COVID. They've tried doing a similar thing with the environment and global warming and saving the planet and bringing in all kinds of new rules, regulations and money-raising techniques. But that's running out of steam as well. And they desperately know that it's coming to a head. And very, very, very shortly, we're going to have a major issue with financial markets, the housing markets, the supply chain, food production. They know this is coming. And they're looking for another big distraction and another way of raising revenue and keeping the stock market afloat, because governments all profit from the stock market, whereas you and me, average Joe public, we don't. So they don't want to kill their golden goose and their money-making schemes. So they're looking for a distraction. And lo and behold, we've seen over recent months, China, we need to do something about China. They're going to invade Taiwan. It's a humanitarian crisis. And then it was, nothing happened. And then it was, oh, it's Russia and Ukraine and they're going to invade Ukraine and it's terrible and we need to save the poor Ukraine people. It's a big distraction. But the danger is it could very easily tip over. It's not beyond the realms. We've seen it with Iraq and weapons of mass destruction. It's not beyond the realms for someone somewhere in the West to suddenly spark a little conflict. The Russian-speaking people in Ukraine react. That sparks a bigger conflict. The West reacts and sends in even more weapons. They're not going to put boots on the ground in Ukraine, I'll guarantee that. They'll have them deployed in the area, but all of this talk about sending troops, they were shouting that Russia's got 150,000 on the border. So what do? Western governments, UK and US, will send 10,000 against an army of 150,000. So they're not going to put boots on the ground. But the danger is they could use the Ukraine as a proxy war, as they did in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, and they're still doing it in Syria. And it boosts their production of the military-industrial complex, generating revenue. They start pumping money into the economy on the guise of defending freedom, which stimulates the economy, and their gravy train continues whilst we, the public, suffer the consequences in disruption to supply chain, higher prices, massively higher prices for things like energy, because that's used in the war effort, and food, which is again used in the war effort. So whichever way this pans out, and as I say, I don't envisage a full-blown World War III, not in a million years. Well, I wouldn't say a million years, not now. But there is potential there, and even if there isn't this little spark ignited deliberately, not quite sure what bird that was. I suspect that's a bird of prey having breakfast. Yeah, irrespective of what happens in Ukraine, this is going to rumble on for sure. It's too good an opportunity for Western governments to miss, to further their agenda at the expense of us, the general public. So don't get all exercised about World War III. Don't get too deep down the rabbit hole of who did what, where and when in Ukraine. It's all a distraction technique. There is real stuff going on that's going to have a real impact on you. So the best you can do is analyse the situation, analyse your personal situation, and see what steps you can take now and over whatever time we have before the crash, to improve upon your resilience and your individual circumstance. I mentioned debt and drawing down on debt, moving debt between high interest rates, low interest rates. Stock up, for God's sake, on food, water, essentials that you need on a day-to-day basis. You don't know when the next big crash in the supply chain is coming, but it is. And you don't know when the food inflation or the price inflation of food is going to stop. And for sure, it's not going to stop anytime soon. Bank of England has put interest rates up twice in the last couple of months. More are forecast. We're forecasting 1.5% total increase in inflation this year, but it could go a lot higher than that. And even if it doesn't, 1.5%, add on the bits that the banks add on, it's a lot. Inflation, we're at record highs already for the last 30-40 years, as is America. It's not the Bank of America, it's the federal, the Fed in America has got an emergency meeting on Monday. Lots of talk about bringing forward those interest rate rises that they had planned for March. They know that the situation is becoming quite critical, and they're scrabbling around desperately trying to put fingers in the various holes of that dam that is ready to burst to try and stop the leak. Things are coming to a head, but don't get distracted about the imminent crisis that's coming is World War III. It's not. The imminent crises, plural, that's coming is interest rate rises, which affects your finances personally, inflation, which affects your finances personally, and global supply chain issues, which impacts your ability to get the things you need on a day-to-day basis. Focus on those things. Don't focus on media stories about Ukraine and Taiwan and Russia and China. Yes, it's important, but it's a distraction, and a deliberate distraction, to divert your gaze away from those three things that I just mentioned: inflation, interest rates, and supply chain. So do yourselves a favour and start, if you haven't, start preparing. If you are already prepping, then it's perhaps time to tick up a gear and divert whatever resource you have into stocking up. Anyway, with that said, let's get that out of the way. What am I doing here? I've brought down the new polytunnel. The intention is to start dismantling the old one. I want to try and rejig the inside of the polytunnel and put in a bit more wooden support structure, knowing just how bad the winds are across the field here, and seeing what's happened to the polytunnel over the last couple of years. I figure if I'm going to put a new one in, then I'll do myself a favour and try and brace it structurally inside, give a second skin, if you like, to the metal tubing that is the support structure for the polytunnel. That's not a 2-minute job. Indeed, dismantling the old one is not going to be a 2-minute job either. It's bloody cold outside, and looking at the sky, something's coming. Rain, snow, I don't know what. So I really, in all honesty, don't know how much of that I'm going to get done today. If I do manage to dismantle the existing structure this weekend, I'll be amazed. I'm certainly not going to be getting anywhere near erecting the new one. I'm not too concerned about how long it takes. There's nothing in there right now. There's a few buckets of carrots. There's a few bushes, elderberry and fig, that I could, if I need to, bring into the garden room to keep them out of the more severe frost that we might be getting in over the next few days. I'm more interested in getting it right, getting the final structure right. So that's something that you'll see over the coming few weekends, however long it takes. Other than that, there won't be a great deal. Chickens have got their greenery to come. I'm tempted to plant some more seeds into trays this weekend. Whether I'll get that done or not today, I don't know. So today's video for you might well be over right now. It depends, I guess, on whether and what progress I can make, if any, in dismantling the existing structure. If you remember when I built it with the intention of it not coming down. So the framework is firmly tied in with clamps and screws into the base wood structure that it supported. The plastic sheeting that covers the polytunnel structure is buried in the ground. It's going to take a while to get that out. And to top it off, I've put a fence down one side, which is going to make access to the side and the bottom side of the polytunnel extremely difficult. Whose bright idea was that, putting a fence there? Anyway, this coffee's gone cold again. The fire is dying down. I can feel the temperature dropping. I need to remedy both of those things. Build up the fire, get some more coffee on the go, have a little think about how I'm going to attack the dismantling of the polytunnel. But if I get a chance, I'll give you some clips of progress as we go through the rest of today. I might even overlap into tomorrow rather than put the video out today. It's all up in the air at the moment. I honestly don't know. But wherever you are and whatever you are doing, please do stay safe and well. And I'll catch up with you as and when. I'll get the greenery out the way before I attempt the polytunnel, and look at this. Oh, they're both here. Get along nicely, you two. No fighting. It's nice and relaxing. The cockerel's funny. He keeps clucking to call them all over, saying that he's found the best bits and keep them away from me. Oh dear, the little red one's not buying it though. She knows. It is funny. Watch the fingers. I could sit here for ages, but I won't. I've got stuff I need to be doing. But it is nice to watch them. Well, the other little red one's gone in the coop. I think she's got off to start the production for today. Right, let me get rid of this. Come on then. Fend for yourself. And I'll get myself out and sort it out with the polytunnel. Well, here we are. It's I can't really complain that much. This has stood up to huge winds that have come across from southwest there, and it's taken a real battering over the last couple of years, but with a bit of patching here and there, it's managed to see itself through another winter. But all of these vents, they had this fly screen material, this white stuff here, and it's just not robust enough. You can see on most of them it's completely trashed. I think on the new one it has similar things, but I'd be tempted to just have these permanently fixed and just have sort of permanently attach these to keep them permanently closed, because the wind, with it being on Velcro, the wind can whip them open, which then leads to this other white stuff getting completely trashed. So I don't know, a bit of thinking to be done about how I'd secure those. In terms of dismantling, you remember I put all this wood around the bottom and dug the plastic in, so I've got to get that wood off. And 2 years of weather, I'm sure the screws are not going to come out easily. And of course around this other side I had the bright idea of putting the fence up against it, so it's going to be really difficult to get into here, into this side. But these things are sent to try us, and it's all a learning curve. Inside, you remember I put these wooden posts in to try and brace the frame. Even they have taken a battering with the constant moving. So I need to come up with a bit of a better solution. And similarly at the back, these polytunnels are designed, there is no brace down the back wall. So I put in this temporary post, which has actually done very, very well, to be fair. And I put in a metal post across the back, again, just to provide that bit of support. But again, I'm going to have to rethink that a little bit. The frame, the roof, everywhere pretty much. It's probably not going to show in this light, but all of these broke. I've replaced a few of them and cable tied them just to give it a bit more support. But these things, I guess they're cheap for a reason. Well, I say they're cheap, they're not that cheap, but cheaper than an industrial grade for sure. But they're just, you can see there, look, this is the one that broke. I'd repaired it once with some steel tube, but it just broke again. So it's time to bring it down. I've tried over the last couple of years to brace it here and there. I've got some earth spikes, which again, to be fair, have done a pretty good job in providing support. But again, I need to just have a little rethink as to how I'm going to do it for the new one. So it's not going to be a quick job dismantling all of this, but now is the time to do it. Get it out of the way over the next couple of weeks. Try and get the new one up and running in time for putting out the seed trays. And of course, I'm going to have my carrots and potatoes in here again. So time isn't on my side. But if I start it now, I should be able to get it done. Even with the limited time I have free at the weekends, I should be able to get it done in plenty of time to get the seedlings in without disrupting my little program of work for this year. I reckon I am going to have to move these though, these blueberries and the fig, because you can see they're budding, and I don't want these knocking back if I can help it, because we have got, I'm sure, at least another month and a half of icy conditions to come. So I might be tempted to move these into the polytunnel, into the garden room, just as a bit of a precaution. And of course I've got all this stuff to move as well. Anyway, enough moaning and trying to put it off. I just need to bite the bullet and make a start. It's often the hardest thing, is that making a start. So let's get going. Well, I've just spent a little bit of time shuffling all of the blueberry bushes and the fig into the garden room, because I know for sure as soon as that cover comes off the polytunnel, the rabbits or squirrels or whatever, they'll be in. And the last thing I want is a repeat of what I had with the fruit trees on the field. I don't want the rabbits or squirrels or whatever the hell it is that's doing it chewing the bark off these and destroying them. So they're safe enough in here. Wind is picking up, which is making it bloody cold. Don't know if you can hear the chickens. That's them starting the production for today, which is good news. Means I'll have some more eggs to pick up before I go. Though it's very tempting to stay in here. I can't. I've got to keep moving on. Well, that's the wooden battens off, and I've dug out the plastic from where I'd buried it under the ground all the way around. Dear, that was a bit of a chew. It's all the wood. All I need to do now is untie it where it's attached on the inside, and hopefully this will just lift straight off. But who knows? If I can get it off, I'll be happy, because I can sit down with a cup of coffee then and get my breath back, because that's not been an easy job. Well, that looks a bit bare now. That took a bit of doing, I'll tell you. But you can clearly see now where I've patched up over the years. Well, maybe you can't because it's shining. The light's shining from the sky. Let's try it this way around. Is that better? Yeah. So yeah, you can clearly see the various places where I've patched it up to try and extend the life. Same here. I put some extra steel tubes in there, but it's really rickety. Anyway, hopefully it won't be shortly. This is going to be a bit of a pig to dismantle the frame, but first things first, I really do need to get rid of that. I really do need a cup of coffee and a sit down, because that's worn me out. Oh, well, that wore me out, and as usual took far longer than I thought it was going to. I knew it would be a bit of a chew getting the cover off, but over the years, it's been there for a couple of years, so of course the wooden lats have swollen up and hidden the screws, and some of the screws didn't want to come out, and you know the story. But it's done, cover's off. I'm going to have 5 minutes with this cup of coffee, just get my breath back, and then I'll start dismantling the frame. Again, the little nuts and bolts that hold that together, guarantee that they'll have rusted it, and they'll be a bit of a pain to get off. But I'm not worried about dismantling, because I don't mind a bit of brute force and ignorance if I need to, because it's not going to be used again anyway. So fingers crossed that doesn't take as long as the cover did to get off, and hopefully before too much longer I'll have a blank canvas to work with, and I can spend a little bit of time just figuring out what kind of structure I want inside to brace, or to help brace, the outer framework. Hopefully you're having a bit more of a relaxed day. I'll catch you later. Slowly but surely we're getting all of the bolts out. Well, I was right about the bolts. They were rusted, but it's slowly coming down. I've got nearly all of the top frame undone. The bottom one should be a bit easier. Slowly we're getting there. Well, that's all the framework down. I still need to do a little bit of work for these wooden beams that I put in, these support beams. I think I'll take those out as well and start from scratch. Loads and loads of pipes strewn across the grass. I would just sort those out into ones that potentially could be reused as spares, or I'm thinking perhaps with a bit of adjustment they could be used for extra support struts, but I won't know that for sure until I get the new polytunnel frame up and see where they might fit. I could flatten the ends and then drill through and use them as an extra support strut. That's what I'm thinking anyway. But for now, one last push, get these wooden support beams sorted out. I might just nip in and get warmed up. This battery needs charging on this phone as well. The cold is just sucking the power out of it. So yeah, I'll do that. I'll charge up quickly, maybe grab a quick coffee, because this sky looks like we're going to get some rain shortly or something, and I don't want to be out here in that. Good progress, I'm pleased. Just putting the bolts and screws that I got out of that framework, just popping them in a little jar with a bit of WD-40 just to hopefully recycle. Well, that's about as much as I can do today. I've sorted out the poles that are still in good condition, sized them off. I'll be using those at some point when I get the new structure up to provide a little bit more support. The others I've just broken down into small pieces and popped them in this bag so that I can get rid of them. But I think we're about done for today. Thankfully the rain's held off, and thankfully the wind has also held off. Still cold, but it could have been a lot worse. So really pleased with what I've achieved today, and look forward to getting stuck back into it another day. But for now I'm going to get tidied up, locked up, and I think that'll be it. Well, that's it for another day. Everything's locked up. It looks really strange without the polytunnel there. There's just this big empty space. Ah dear. But it will get filled eventually. Quite looking forward to the reconstruction actually. Especially now I've got some extra material for additional support struts, so I'm really looking forward to that. Not quite sure how quick I'll get it done though. Time, as always, is not on my side, but wherever you are, whatever you're doing, hope you are staying safe and well and enjoying your weekend, and I'll catch up with you again shortly. Well, that's it for this video. I hope there was something in there that was of interest to you. If you did like the video, please do click on the like button. Also feel free to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. As always, welcome any comments, questions or suggestions you might have. What do you think? Storm on the horizon? Which bit concerns you the most? Do let me know in the comment section below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.